I was actually speaking to someone the other day about the 1918 Spanish flu, saying how it was spread by the vaccine, and the guy I was talking to said, oh, no way, that it was the second wave. There were around 40 million people who died from that flu, and there's no way they gave out 40 million vaccines. But that's the thing, folks, they don't need to vaccinate everybody. And of course it's better if they do, because it raises the odds, and the vaccines also weaken everybody's immune system. But there's no real need to do the whole population, because what happens is the vaccine will serve to place a small amount of the virus into a human body, into a lot of human bodies. And each recipient then serves as like a human incubator. And many people will only suffer like mild effects, but the law of averages says that eventually the virus will land in the right type of metabolism for it to mutate into a superbug that will kill millions whether they're vaccinated or not. This is how it works. Now you just watch. In the next few months, once the vaccinations start, it's going to go rampant. You watch. Trials of this vaccine have already begun here in Australia, so I don't imagine it's going to be very long before they announce a new and much more deadly strain. This is just how it works, folks. So we will see this happen after the vaccinations begin. That's why they hype the fear up so much, so that people will just rush off to get these vaccinations. This is not good stuff, folks. I've actually sent a letter to the Health Minister this week. I will be following that through. I'm still waiting to organise charges to put before the police. This really does need to be done. I urge everybody else out there who's listening to this, whatever country you're in, even if you're in my country, Australia, whoever is out there listening, don't hesitate to go and lodge charges, because the more people who do it, the better. The real danger that we face is from this vaccine. That's just always the way it is. And it won't just be from the flu either. There'll be all sorts of stuff that happens down the track. A year from now, 18 months from now, you'll see people developing strange ailments, lymphoma or cancers or tumours or blood disorders, or you'll see all sorts of things. This is how they do it, folks. This is part of the big eugenics plan. This is what we've been talking about. This is what Georgia Guidestones are all about. Get the population down to 500 million. So people are waking up to what's going on. People are waking up to the fact that there's only a handful of people that are running this planet. So the best thing they can do to combat this awakening is cull the population. That's just the way it works. They've been very clever the way they've put all this together, folks. They've pretty well thought about all possibilities, and they've been very clever with the way they've done this. Now, to go along with all of this swine flu, as I said last week, I think I mentioned to you, there have been news reports surfacing lately claiming that there is no nutritional difference between chemical genetically modified food that alters the DNA of any creature that eats it and organic food that is rich in vitamins and nutrients and essential trace elements made just as nature intended it. It's a little unnerving that there may even be people around that have been that brainwashed by the TV that they might even tend to believe such complete, utter disinformation. But in putting the release of such an outrageously blatant lie into some kind of perspective, the most unnerving part about it is the actual timing of the release of that statement. They're saying this just as they are pushing through the insidious HR 2749 bill that has the potential to criminalise organic farming. So you can see how the mind control and conditioning of people's thoughts is done. First they get people to say, well, what's all the fuss about? There's no difference between organic and non-organic anyway. And then the next move will be to list many of the organic farms as the source of contaminants, and this Hitlerian piece of legislation will then allow the police to terrorise any citizens or organic farms that choose to do what is the safest, most nutritious, most sensible, and indeed the correct thing to do, which is to continue to grow and to shop organically. Now, quite notably, of course, and as I mentioned several months ago, while all of this is happening, both Buckingham Palace and the White House are feverishly digging, planting and cultivating their very own organic gardens with which to feed the inhabitants and the staff, so they won't be subject to any of the nutrient-devoid GM food they are planning on feeding to the masses. Maybe that should be a little bit of a sign there, folks, don't you think? I mean, really, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much these people have to do before people begin waking up to reality, because this is getting pretty blatant, folks. I mean, come on, they're getting all the organic seeds, they're hiding them all in these big underground seed vaults. They're going around passing all this legislation and doing all of these things and saying that organic food isn't good for you and all of this sort of stuff. They're forcing you to eat genetically modified food while they've stashed all these seeds underground. They're growing organic gardens for the ruling class. So the ruling class has these sort of pretty well guarded gardens, because, I mean, you can't exactly go into the White House and steal veggies from the garden, can you? It's a bit hard to do that. So same with Buckingham Palace. You see all these people, they're growing their own organic gardens. They're hiding all the seeds in underground vaults. They're forcing you to eat genetically modified food, and they're passing legislation that can virtually criminalize growing nutritious food. And while they're doing all of this, they're spraying you with chemicals from aircraft, and half of the people out there are so stupid and so brainwashed on television that they look up in the sky and seriously believe these things are just contrails. They don't understand that the active word in contrail is con, for condensation, that these normal contrails are just condensation that lasts 30 to 45 seconds behind an aircraft, that don't break up into chemical clouds. You can go and find reports, you can look at what some of these chemical clouds contain. You find that they contain barium, strontium, aluminium. They even contain red blood corpuscles. They contain all sorts of genetic material. This is how they do it all, folks. They spray this on the population, they feed you all this chemical food, and they are changing the population. This is what the whole thing is all about. See, they kill off as much of the population as they can. You know, they work out how much they sort of need to keep the machine going, and they kill off the rest. And the ones that are left are fed all this chemical soup so they can genetically modify this race. This is the evolution that these people want to bring about in 2012. I mean, we could go the other way, but it's up to our freedom of choice. So that's the thing that they have taken away from a lot of people. And the people that do believe they have freedom of choice believe that they have the choice to either focus on the good or focus on the bad. A lot of the New Age movement, they sit there and say, I'll just focus on the good. I won't look at the cause, I'll just focus on getting a different effect from the cause. They forget that this is a physical world, that they are subject to all of the chemicals and electromagnetic soup that they're living in, all of the chemicals in the air that they're breathing. It's freedom of choice, folks. It's our choice as to which direction the human race goes in. But we actually have to deal with it on a physical level through realizing the power that we have to stand up and say no. I mean, sure, there's a lot to the power of attraction and being careful what you focus on. But by the same token, there's a lot to intention as well. And it doesn't really matter how much you're simply focusing on the positive. If you're not a person that understands empathy, and you're not a person with good intent in everything that you do, and understanding that every intention you have charges the field around you. If you're not one of those sort of people, then you can sit there and focus on the good as much as you like. It's not going to change the outcome. Because, I mean, even with a lot of people doing it, what is their intention in doing that? Are they intending for themselves to be clean and safe and secure, and for themselves to evolve without the rest of the human race? Is that really a good intention? I mean, there's so much that needs to be looked at with a lot of the spiritualist New Age movement.